Let's talk now to retired Navy Commodore Kunle Olawunmi, of course, who is now head of Department of Criminology and Security Studies at Christian University in Abeokuta. Dr. Olawunmi, thank you for your time. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Let me take off from where I stopped with my last guest, and that's talking about strategy and how the war in Ukraine has brought certain things quickly to the front than they would have if that had not happened. Let's start off with the massive military buildup that is going on in several places, particularly in China, in South Korea, in Taiwan, in Japan, and so on. Do you think we've started, for example, a new arms race?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think it's beyond arms race. What we're seeing really in international security environment is basically a realignment of allies and preparation for what I'm beginning to consider as inevitable.
The situation where you talk about realignment, let me ask you, I'm sorry to cut in. When you talk about realignment, are you talking about, for example, Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, and so on one side, and then you have the US, the UK, France, Germany, and a couple of others on the other side?
Exactly. That's what is playing out. The events in Ukraine actually has provoked certain realignment. You can see, for instance, Saudi Arabia aligning with Iran, and that's something that is surprising. And you see the Brazilians, South Africa also realigning with the BRICS. So I think what they're doing is jostling for position and try to gather more allies, on both sides for what they consider an inevitable economic war, and perhaps, a showdown on the military aspect. Because one of the important things in war is your allies. How many allies do you have? So if you see what has been going on, I believe that the beneficiary of all this is going to be China. I said earlier on in the program here that this is like a distraction of what I call in a chess game, what I consider a gambit game. I think the ultimate is Taiwan. The Chinese, are very resilient and they are very determined to take Taiwan. So whatever they can do with the Ukrainian programs as is going on now, aligning with North Korea, Russia, Iran, and so on, is going to play out eventually in an inevitable attack on Taiwan. So the United States, they know this, the British, they know this, and that's why you can see them try to take the Pacific, getting countries like Australia, Japan, South Korea, into the basket. So this is not a very good sign. It's not a very good sign. I said in the other program, the last program I did on TV, that the Russians cannot be underrated, that they've not actually used most of their modern weapons. Yesterday, they started showing what they have, dropping a 1,500-pound bomb on a target. It's like using hammer to kill mosquitoes. And firing some of their hypersonic missiles and so on from the submarines, from the aircraft and so on, is just to show the West what they still have in stock. And I saw the British Prime Minister also trying to align, submarine deal with the United States, to help them in Australia as well. And floating a £5 million, budget on defense by the British, I think is also an indication that they are preparing for a larger battle.
let's look at how all of this could possibly play out. I mean, because when we're talking about this, we are looking at it from the angle of security. My last guest earlier on talked about the fact that this confrontation, even though it sounds inevitable, is not wanted by any of the parties because they know that in all probability nobody is going to come out of it. But that it's likely to start off by somebody making a mistake somewhere in all of this furious building and arming that is going on. Do you agree?
Yeah, I completely agree. The last time I mentioned that Putin is a psychopath. He's somebody who knows exactly what he's doing. What he's doing basically is punishing Ukrainians, and it's going to wear them out completely. You know, you can imagine how many men and materials have been lost in this battle. But while doing that, you can see the Chinese are also supporting, and I think the United States is not very happy with with the Chinese. And I just think if North Korea is dragged into this, what we just predicted now may happen. The little rocket man, as is on the call, may trigger a world war by making mistakes, because I see him as somebody that is not very stable and does not understand the international security environment. And when you look at international relations, you can see that North Korea has been completely sidelined, except with maybe China, maybe Iran. So they actually do not understand how some of these games are played. And if they are drawn in, I'm thinking that North Korea may be the trigger of the Third World War. So a mistake can be made. And when you put people like Iran in the basket as well, imagine if Iran decide to attack Israel today. What will happen? So I think the international community, the United Nations, should call some of these boys to order. I call them boys, the P5, and actually try to tell them that these are necessary programs they're embarking on. As I said in the other program, they are making a lot of money from this. But beyond that, what you really mentioned can happen. We can have a situation where somebody will mistakenly, press a button. And I like to, as I usually do, predict or advise that this war is not going to be won on the ground. I'm sure that somehow along the line, somebody may decide to take out Putin, and I think we will have some respite in some of this agitation that I'm seeing all over the world. The alignment and realignment is not in the interest of anybody. We have more pressing needs. The economic is not very good. I mean, the economy is not very good globally. And the issue of health is more paramount than all these submarines and aircraft carriers that they are spending billions and billions on. The world deserves better. And I think some of these warmongers and military-industrial complex should see beyond, fighting and destruction. I pray there will be no mistakes from the North Korea.
Now, before I let you go, I must ask, of course, when you talk about people being sidelined, many that I've spoken to on this program have pointed out that Africa is one of the regions that appears to be completely sidelined in this battle of taking sides, particularly in terms of the military buildup and preparation for, confrontation, if that is the word. What can or should African countries do while everybody else seems to be making preparations? Because as you pointed out, almost everybody else in Asia, in Europe, in the Americas are making their own preparations for one thing or the other, so that they're prepared when this happens, if it happens. But that doesn't seem to be the case on our own continent here. We're not seen to be preparing. Am I wrong?
Yeah, we have nothing to prepare. We have more pressing challenges, democratic, challenges. We have economic challenges, food, even power. So even if we want to prepare, I don't see, are we going to get loan from China again to prepare for a war? I think Africans should just remain unaligned. I believe that the South Africans are biting more than they can chew. I don't understand what South Africa really have that is making them to jump on the train. Africa should maintain its non-aligned movement and perhaps use the African Union to press in terms of a diplomatic shuttle and try to prevail on the warriors or the warmongers at the UN Security Council, at the Assembly. I think what they can do basically is diplomacy and not to prepare for any form of war. What Africa needs now is good governance. What we need right now is food, and what we need now is energy. I don't think we should follow the trail and try to pretend that we have something to offer. The level of advancement and technology in the world, I think Africa is far behind. And I think we should maintain a non-aligned posture at this point.
Indeed. Dr. Kunle Olawunmi, Head of Department Criminology and Security Studies, retired Navy Commodore, thank you so much for your time on the program this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.